Good morning, welcome back. This is Daybreak and thank you for staying with us. The hashtag on Twitter is Daybreak, the SMS code is 22422, at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. To avert crisis, start planning now. That is the clarion call from environmentalists to the national and the county governments ahead of the anticipated El-nino rains as predicted by the Kenya Meteorological Department. In a moment, I'll take the account of my panel here, but first, Brenda Wanga sets up our discussion with the following report.
After nearly 5 failed rain seasons, the country and the region is set to welcome the short rains that the Meteorological Department predicts will more than make up for the prolonged preceding dry season. During
the October, November, December 2023, it is expected that most parts of the country will experience enhanced, that is, above average rainfall that will be fairly distributed in some parts of the country and well distributed in others.
The higher than usual rainfall is as a result of the El-nino climate phenomena that is caused by the warming of the ocean surface in the central and eastern tropical Pacific Ocean. The traditionally rainy areas that constitute the country's breadbasket, including parts of Siaya, Kisumu, Homa Bay, Migori, Kisii, Nyamira, Uasin Gishu, West Pokot, Elgeyo Marakwet, Kericho, Kakamega, Trans Nzoia, Vihiga, Laikipia West, Narok and Nakuru counties are expected to get heavy continuous rainfall. Kitui, Makueni, Machakos, Taita Taveta and Kajiado counties are set to receive above long-term average rainfall, while the northern eastern counties, including Wajir and Mandera, will receive the highest rainfall above average. The department warns of the attendant dangers that may come with the El-nino rains.
From recent experience, the flash floods that happen mostly in the non-traditional areas, the counties which are mostly north and northeastern counties which don't receive much rains.
The Meteorological Department states that the traditionally flood-vulnerable areas, including River Nyando, River Nzoia, the Winam Gulf, River Sondu in western Kenya, Gilgil, Narok Town, Suswa in the Rift Valley, Voi Town, Mwatate, Tana River, Garissa in the coastal strip, Lodwar and Lokicha in the northeastern parts of Kenya, as well as the towns of Nairobi, Mombasa, Nakuru and Naivasha will likely be hit by El-nino floods. Governmental and non-governmental players are lauding the release of this early warning.
We've been given very good lead times by the Kenya Meteorological Department to put in place mechanisms and interventions that reduce the vulnerability of populations at risk.
At the same time, the government, through its agencies in the Ministries of Agriculture, Health and Energy, have also pledged to take advantage of the rains to, among other things, harvest the water for irrigation, increase hydropower production and eliminate waterborne diseases through mitigations where needed.
But for the small-scale farmers who may not be able, the most vulnerable, they'll be targeted for seed distribution. We have a small budget for this seed distribution that we can target farmers who are most needy to be able to plant something at least for their food security.
At the same time, the Ministry of Agriculture has urged farmers to plant fast-maturing crops during the rains to help the country increase its food production and consequently lower the cost of agricultural food products. The Climate Outlook report released ahead of the upcoming Africa Climate Summit that is set to be held in Nairobi from next week. The El-nino weather was experienced in Kenya last in 2016 and in 1997 before that. And then the negative impact of this weather phenomenon far outweighed the positive ones. But now the weatherman says the science has evolved, preparing the country for this round of El-nino, where they say this time the good will outweigh the bad. Brenda Wanga, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Roslyn Omolo is the County Executive Committee member for the health docket in the county of Homa Bay, among the counties that have laid out their plans to prepare for the anticipated El-nino rains as predicted by the Met Department. Good morning and thanks for making time. Venant Ndigila is the Manager Emergency Preparedness at the Kenya Red Cross. Thank you for your time. He was there during that presser issued by the stakeholders. And Mary Kilavi is the Assistant Director, the Kenya Meteorological Department. Ladies and gentlemen, your time is all appreciated. First, coming to you, Venant. the prediction is out and the anticipated El-nino rains, but is there commensurate preparedness both at the national and at the county level?
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for having me. Yes, according to the prediction by the KMD, further analysis, of course, indicates that at least 25 counties are likely to feel the effects, or rather to receive the effects, and most of these effects are medium to severe effects, and which will require some level of preparation and, of course, preparedness. I want to say that a lot has started. There's a lot of coordination, a lot of looking into the plans. We are working, Kenya Red Cross is working very closely with the county governments to try and review the plans which are there, try and understand likely effects to the community, and also put in place some of the measures which are to reduce the risks, and also to support the communities in case the effects come to pass.
Waziri Roslyn, when you unveiled your plan in preparedness for the anticipated El-Nino rains, was there a component of your plan that was on creating awareness amongst the people of Homa Bay County as to the hotspot areas and what needs to be done ahead of the anticipated rains?
Thank you. So as we launched our plan, you realize we have a task force, an interagency task force that consists both of the national government and the county government. It's actually co-chaired by the county commissioner and my colleague Grace Osewe, who is in charge of the disaster management docket. So there is initial profiling of who is likely to be affected, led actually by the Kenya Red Cross. And what we are doing is we are using chiefs, we are using all levels of community contacts. We are using chiefs, we are using, from the health department, we are using community health volunteers, basically just to enlighten people on the possibilities, possible pathways, and especially the areas that we think are likely to be flooded. What are the possible pathways for evacuation? When it comes to our fisher folk, our BMUs are being sensitized. Again, you know, fishing is the mainstay of the county of Homa Bay. We have 80% of the Lake Victoria in Kenya. So we know that the lake is likely to rise. So we are already speaking to the beach management units to sensitize their people on the likelihood of the lake waters rising and what they should do. So yes, there is sensitization.
All right. We'll talk more about what appears to be a double-edged sword, because we are just off the drought period now. The prediction is that if no adequate response measures are put in place, then this will morph into a disaster and further affect the population. Mary, when you made the press statement, and that was attended by stakeholders, among them the Kenya Red Cross, I mean, do you reach out to relevant state agencies specifically with these reports, and what's their response in regards to the level of preparedness needed, both at the national and at the county level?
Yes, as you've rightly said, especially during the launch, or rather the release of the forecast, we reach out to different state agencies. Actually, what we do just prior to the release of the forecast, because we take some time to produce a forecast. So in the course of the production process, what we do is that we engage different state agencies, and we look at what is expected, and from the expected outlook, then we come up with advisories depending on different sectors. So that kind of co-production is done just before the release of the forecast. Yes.
Venant, there is the planned formation of the National Emergency Response Committee that will be chaired by the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua. And the Kenya Red Cross is a member of that body that is meant to coordinate the preparedness plans by both the national and the county governments. What are the specific roles of this committee, and I mean, what does it intend to achieve with regards to the anticipated El-nino rains as predicted by the Met Department?
Yeah, the specific and main role actually is to coordinate, the way I've said, to coordinate all the efforts, and these efforts are mainly to put in good or strong readiness for the communities and other support stakeholders to be able to ensure that there is enough preparedness. One, first to be able to take advantage of the rains and, of course, the positive part of the rains. And second, of course, to support those who are vulnerable and are likely going to be affected. And in this coordination will include also mobilizing of resources and focusing resources towards these efforts, and also prepositioning of some of the materials which are likely going to be needed. So by the end of the day, it is to coordinate and spearhead the efforts towards this El-nino response. Yeah. Okay,
and how important is the aspect of public-private partnership here? Because, I mean, we are looking at, for example, the projections given there of the rainfall that is anticipated in many parts of the country, like in the northern frontier counties, which will be above average. We are looking into flooding that is likely going to cause catastrophe if, I mean, proper measures are not going to be put in place. At what level are you cooperating with other entities as well with regards to the coordination that you have mentioned?
Yeah, already the coordination has started. Some of these meetings, the lower governments, the county governments, even at the national level, the early meetings, there is a lot of reach out to the public sector, the private sector, to be able to come in and participate. And this is mostly taking advantage of the capacity which is there, and also the resources, so to say, and some of them are technical resources, so that the whole effort, they come in and also participate in planning, review of the plans, and also harnessing the efforts together with the public entities.
All right. Roslyn, is there then a plan of a water retention system? Because in some years to come, then the debate might change to now having measures in place to counter the effects of drought. I mean, here basically it's the aspect of harvesting. What are the plans at your level as a county, despite in launching your program for the preparedness for the El-nino?
Thank you. So first, we do not anticipate a scenario where we have water running off that cannot be harnessed and used for other purposes. So basically, just also to give you a snapshot, we have two levels of intervention. So there's the part that we expect will be flooded. These are the areas very close to the lake, and the areas that have, the kind of soil that does not retain a lot of water. But in the areas where we have black cotton soil, which retains more water, we hope that this water can be harnessed so that we improve harvest in these areas to cushion, as you rightly said at the beginning, to cushion the areas that will not have good harvests because of flooding. So we have plans, of course, to have water pans where the water can collect for future use, especially for use by cattle and so on and so forth. We also have a lot of water storage facilities even now as a county, and we hope that these, when enhanced, will enable us not to have issues of water shortage in the future. Though as a county we do not generally have a problem. That is speaking for Homa Bay, but I know that the other counties, especially the northern frontiers, are investing a lot in water pans, because this is the easiest way to harness that water to make it useful for the future, and also to control the damage, because it's both the now and the future. You harness it, you put it in one place where it can remain to serve for the future, as you also prevent it from running off and causing further damage through the flooding.
And is there a number of people that you have said that is near the lake area, the environment, and the soil that doesn't retain water? Are you targeting specific people who you plan to move for that short period? And what has been the response in terms of the message that you have conveyed to them of what awaits them and the possible relocation of them?
Okay, so our initial survey shows that we have 40,000 people out of the 1.2 million people in Homa Bay who are most at risk of being affected very directly by the floods. But we have a larger number of up to about 200,000 who will be impacted. So the ones who are directly affected, who are likely to need evacuation, we've started having conversations with them. As I said earlier, establishing the evacuation routes, because it also becomes extremely challenging to reach them. And again, what you also have to understand is the waters that flood Homa Bay does not come from the rains that fall in Homa Bay. So when you lie on the lower part, then a lot of the water comes from the highlands. So mostly it will be the lake swelling, the waters of the lake rising, and also the other rivers, and most of which have their source in the highlands, in the Rift Valley highlands, especially around the areas of Nandi Hills and Sondu and so on. So a lot of times we have to sensitize people and tell them, it's not the day that you experience a lot of rainfall here that you expect to have flooding. There could actually be no rain, but when you wake up, there's flooding because the water has come from a different place. So we are having conversations. A lot of our partners, for instance, like UNICEF, have already begun to give us what we are calling part of the kit, the emergency kits. And we've already started identifying possible areas, of course, with the able assistance of the Kenya Red Cross, who is our lead in terms of evacuation and emergency response in the county of Homa Bay. So we've started establishing within specific areas, which is likely, what are the centers that we are likely to use, whether it is schools, whether we'll use social halls, and so on and so forth. And then the next step, as we go into resource mobilization as a county, we want to ensure that the places where we've set out as holding centers or centers where people can be evacuated to, we at least have the basic amenity. Here we are talking about mobile toilets, mobile bathrooms, and so on and so forth. So people are already beginning to be mentally prepared in the event that we get to the point where they have to be evacuated. We also really insisting on underscoring the importance of early evacuation, because sometimes people hold, for sentimental reasons, it's not really easy to leave your home. But we are saying, should you have to, because the meteorological department is giving us very good, very fair early warning, and they have very strong early warning systems. So if we expect that the flooding possibly will reach its highest level on a Saturday, it would be much easier and less damaging for us to evacuate people earlier. So these are the conversations we are having. Of course, they are very difficult conversations, because you don't want to just be told, wake up and leave.
And realize just one day that they have there are plans to relocate them or become internally displaced person in the event that message isn't heeded. And of course, there are different case scenarios. For the case of Nairobi, in their preparedness plan, they have talked about unblocking the drainage system, moving people from areas that are likely going to be flooding. Different counties have their own different fair share of problems. Mary, I come to you. We last had experienced El-nino in 2016. It's almost 7 years later, as that report that you had issued. From your pattern of observation as to what causes, what are the contributing factors? What did your pattern reveal from the predictions you have given of the drought situation in the country to now, again, the anticipated El-nino rains? What's there in between in terms of the contributing factors from your pattern of analysis and understanding?
Okay. Actually, the last El-nino that we had was in 2006, not 2016.
Beg your pardon, 2016.
2016, I think we had a drought that persisted for some time. So this is a cyclic event that occurs about between 3 to 7 years. And lately, it seems to be happening a lot more frequently, mainly because of the warming that is being experienced caused by climate change. And what's interesting is that, like in this case, what we are expecting is not just rain above normal rainfall caused by El-nino. There's actually another driver that is sometimes a lot more influential over the East African region that's not so well known about. That is called the Indian Ocean Dipole. And that is about warming of the Indian Ocean, southwest Indian Ocean, adjusting to the coast, that is coupled with cooling over the Australian region. When that happens, even without El-nino, you actually have extreme rainfall. That's what happened in 2019, the October, November, December rainfall season of 2019. Remember, we had excessive amount of rainfall that persisted all the way to the next season, the March, April, May season of 2020. That happens to be sometimes much more impactful over the region, although what mostly people know about is El-nino. So in this case, what we are having is a combination of the two. The last time that happened was in 1997, the combination of the two. But we've had, and that's why we had extreme rainfall then. And prior to that, the next other time when you had so much rainfall was in 1961, and that was just one of the drivers, the Indian Ocean Dipole. So as much as true we have El-nino, the thing that we are really monitoring very closely is the Indian Ocean Dipole, because when it is positive and continues to increase, then it can really cause a lot of devastation. And we had another El-nino in 2015, but because the Indian Ocean Dipole wasn't that strong, or rather was weak, then it wasn't that impactful. So we are watching the two, we are monitoring the two drivers very closely.
A combination of different factors. With regards to the observations that you've given us. Venant, here comes again the question on your response. And when we had the different counties launch their preparedness plan and what they intend to do in the event of severe flooding, I mean, the problems of Nairobi are not the same as those of Homa Bay or in Busia County or, for example, in Wajir County. How then, as an organization, and I'm sure here is where you will be needed, respond to these different scales and magnitudes of problems from one county to another and the varying levels?
Thank you. First of all, maybe if you can put to context how we see the country in terms of the impacts of these increased rains. First, as we said, 25 counties are likely going to feel the severe effects. We are estimating around 95,000 households, which is roughly around 500,000 people, are likely going to feel the effects one way or the other. And these effects are varied, of course, as you indicated. They are health related. Of course, likelihood of destruction of water sources, contamination of water, but most importantly is around within the destruction of infrastructure, the destruction of homes and houses. This is what we see across most of the counties, especially the urban, mostly informal settlements. And this is because of the predisposing condition, because most of these informal settlements are settled in marginal areas, the areas where we can say there may be the river routes and things like that. So we are working with the counties, as you saw from Homa Bay County when they are launching their plan. We are working with specific counties, coming up and providing technical leadership to form committees which are going to sit down, or rather they have sat down, analyzed the likely effects and map the high-risk areas, the high-risk population, and also the level of vulnerabilities of those who are going to be affected. And then now align the specific kind of support which is required. And this support, we are not looking at response only, or rather responding to the effects. We are looking at also preparing this population. And one of it is around the information, access to information. For example, we have lined up to release at least 20 million SMS services in 3 concepts. One is to provide early warning. This is to inform them of what is likely to come related to the rains. The second is to alert when the rains are imminent, to alert them, to link with the plans, for example, if they are to evacuate, and tell them this is the time. And then the third is to guide them on the response, that if you are flooded, then this is what you need to do. So we are working with the local communities, with our local teams, of course. We have activated at least 6,000 volunteers in all these counties, so that to continue monitoring, work with the communities, try to explore the past experiences, align with the current conditions, and then now we align with the response. So we have put, for example, we are targeting at least 30,000 households, the initial number, which is around 150,000 people, to support them as they are affected, the initial number. Then we scale up as we move.
Of the targeted number of people that you'll be sending out the text messages to, you'll tell us the specifics and the factors that inform that, and across how many counties, for example. Is there a segmentation in terms of the worst affected, and otherwise which counties border on the part of what the environmentalists have called to plan better from the national, and the counties across the 47 devolved units ahead of the anticipated El-nino rains as predicted by the Kenya Met Department. And when we get back, Roslyn Omolo and Mary Klavi, I'll get your accounts as well as we proceed with the discussion here on the program. The hashtag on Twitter is Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. When we get back from the break, we proceed with the discussion, and in the course of this broadcast, sample your feedback here on Daybreak. Stay tuned.